Hi, I'm Matthew Brown. My project partner is Corey Rogers, and we've done our job analysis over the assembler position at Trane using the performance and observation methods. First, a little background history on Trane Incorporated. They began way back in 1885 when James Trane opened a plumbing store, but he was also an innovator, and in 1913 he and his son, who had formed the Trane Company, released a heating product called the Trane Vapor Heater, which was a new kind of low-pressure steam technology. At that point, they dropped the plumbing industry and began focusing on heating products. In 1931, they became pioneers of the air conditioning industry with Trane Unit Cooler. And then 1956 is whenever a Trane plant opened in Tyler, Texas. For 61 years, they have been one of the top 10 employers in our city. And the analysis we are doing is over the assembler position on the assembly line. The description of this job is to perform various electromechanical assembly operations and package the completed air conditioning and heating units. My analysis, I'll begin with the observation method. Being a former employee of Trane, I was able to get a guided tour through the facility, and that's how I conducted my observation analysis. There are far more positions that require minimal training than there are that require extensive training, like brazing and soldering. However, whether you're working with a torch, with a drill, or with your hands, everything else stays the same as far as your responsibilities and your job tasks. First thing you do is check for errors that have been made before you. The second thing is there are step-by-step instructions along with visual aids to help you perform what task is supposed to be done at your station. So aside from soldering and brazing, which requires training, you can be what they call a floater and move from position to position to fill in for absences, because there is such detailed instruction right in front of you as far as how to perform that task for that station. Finally, you check your own work for errors, and then you hit the green button to send that unit down the line and work on the next one. The target time is 50 seconds per unit at each station. There's protective equipment, protective gear that every employee must wear, not only assemblers, but every employee. That is safety glasses, cut-resistant sleeves and gloves, and steel-toed shoes. Even managers have to wear these, and if anybody is seen in the plant without them, they can be walked out. Safety is the #1 priority at Trane. So this brings me on to the performance method, because there were two things that I was able to gather from actually performing the job myself that I couldn't really gather just from observing the work, and that's the mental aspect and the social aspect. Mentally, the work is so repetitive that you'll very soon find yourself thinking you can do this with your eyes closed. And that, unfortunately, can make the job seem very boring, very dull, make the days drag on forever. But the social aspect is what I find balances this out. Because after all, since you're so comfortable doing this over and over, 50 seconds at a time each day, that's like 400 times each work shift. So talking to the coworkers on your left and right isn't really going to distract you very much. You develop a personal bond with these coworkers that are near you. After all, you're standing next to them 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. So even on breaks and lunches, you find yourself talking and eating with this same clique of workers that you're standing immediately next to on the assembly line. But this can really help you as far as getting through the day. I think it helps in the following ways. I think it helps with morale, with attitude about coming to work. And also, even with quality control, because you're comfortable pointing out each other's mistakes. And also a job satisfaction by being able to have some kind of entertainment on the job to pass the time.
Hey guys, I'm Corey Rogers, and as Matt said, I'll be going over the methods that we used in order to do this analysis. And we did use two methods, and really kind of three if you go back into it. Job performance was the number one goal that we had, because both of us have had experience with Trane. As he was an assembler where I was a brazier, I have had assembler experience, so we did get the hands-on portion there, and you get a great understanding of how this works. You get, you get every portion of it. During the training, you get the observation method where you sit side by side with somebody and you watch them do their job, you talk about it, and you really understand it through that method. It's a really deep understanding versus some of the others, like interviewing and stuff like that. We did hit interviewing though. I hit up family members. I'm sure Matt hit up some friends. But again, interviews, they're a way to understand, not too great. Observations, that's a really good way to do it, but hands-on was our best method. It provided, it's easy because with Trane, that assembler position only takes 1 week worth of training. If you want to go extend it into brazing and stuff like that, it takes a little longer, maybe 2 weeks, but it's still considered short-term training. And that allows us to utilize a method and understand what we're working with here. And as an HR person, if you get down in nitty and gritty and you actually do this, to be able to understand what you're putting on your job titles and your specifications, the whole description, then you really get a great understanding of saying, oh, okay, this requires you to have long hours on your feet. This requires you to wear protective gear all day long. Complacency, you want to make sure somebody's not real. As an HR person, our performance methods allowed us to do some other, understand, as I said, the job description, the specifications. This, entails the recruiting and selecting decisions as far as performance appraisals, letting you know what your job starting rate or medium value and high rates are. The evaluation and compensation. What do you want to compensate somebody with? Okay, well, we're in a highly dangerous situation here while we're working. You may want to look into some healthcare benefits. Training requirements. As I said, they've come up to find out that a 1 week training exercise is fine. As an assembler, you're just putting nuts and bolts together, or that's pretty much it. You just gotta be aware of your situation at all times. Again, another key you want to learn. Again, as a job description side, going down a list, you can see things such as the job title, location, summary, report, who you report to, and working conditions or job duties. Again, HR is going to want to know this. HR is going to want to put this on Indeed or anything else that they're going to market their position with. Specifications, they may not mark these. A lot of places do. These include the things like qualifications, experience, skills, responsibilities, emotional characteristics, and training. You're going to touch on some training things. You're going to want to look more or less, as an HR person, you're going to want to look for those qualities in a person. You're going to want to look and say, can this person really do it? The staffing agency and Tyler, they did a really good job, I think. They narrowed out at least 50% of their recruits through sitting down with them and interviewing and really kind of watching you and asking questions that help them out in the selection process. But then, as I said, they send you off while you're still paid through them to do, they call it training, but it's more or less, like I said, it's more or less an evaluation during that 1 week. If you can cut it, then you're another 25 or 50% is cut from it, another 50% goes. So they have a great understanding of what they're doing. I would almost be willing to say that they probably have gone through the job performance analysis method just to be able to give the, okay, Trane, we have a good employee for you. That's what I think.